I had never been happier for my husband than I was that afternoon. After years of working late nights, missing family dinners, and coming home exhausted, he had finally received the promotion he had been praying for. The moment I heard the news, I couldn't stop smiling. I called him immediately. "Congratulations, darling." "I'm so proud of you." He laughed softly. "Thank you, sweetheart. I'll see you tonight." But I had a secret. I didn't want to wait until tonight. I wanted to surprise him, so I left work early, stopped at his favorite restaurant, bought his favorite meal, picked up an expensive bottle of wine, and even bought him a beautiful watch. I imagined the look on his face when I walked through the door. I imagined us celebrating together. I thought that promotion would bring us even closer. I had no idea that I was about to discover something that would change my marriage forever. When I arrived home, the house was strangely quiet. I called his name. "Daniel?" No answer. I smiled to myself. Maybe he hadn't arrived yet. I placed the food on the dining table and arranged everything carefully. Then I noticed something. His car was already parked outside. My smile disappeared. If his car was here, where was he? I called him again. "Daniel?" Still nothing. I walked slowly through the living room. Everything looked normal. Then I heard a faint sound coming from upstairs. It sounded like someone talking. I froze. For a few seconds, I stood there listening. Then I heard a woman's voice. My heart started beating faster. A woman? Inside my house? I immediately thought of his mother, his sister, maybe one of his colleagues. There had to be an explanation. I walked toward the staircase. Every step felt heavier than the one before it. When I reached the top, I heard laughter coming from our bedroom. Our bedroom. I stopped outside the door. The door wasn't completely closed. I pushed it open, and my entire world collapsed. Daniel was standing beside our bed, but he wasn't alone. There was a woman standing in front of him. She was wearing a dress I had never seen before, and in Daniel's hand was a small black box. My stomach turned. He opened it. Inside was a diamond ring. I couldn't breathe. The woman covered her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. Daniel smiled at her. "I've waited so long for this moment." Then he dropped to one knee. I stared at him in complete disbelief. The man I had rushed home to celebrate. The man I had bought a watch for. The man I had prepared his favorite meal for, was on his knees proposing to another woman. I dropped the gift bag from my hand. It hit the floor. Daniel suddenly looked toward the door. His face went completely pale. "Sarah?" The woman turned around. She stared at me. Then she looked at Daniel. "Who is she?" I almost laughed. Who was I? I was his wife. The woman who had stood beside him when he had nothing. The woman who had supported him when he lost his job. The woman who had sacrificed her own dreams so he could pursue his. The woman who had just rushed home to celebrate his success. And now I was standing in my own bedroom, watching him prepare to marry someone else. "Who am I?" I whispered. Daniel stood up. "Sarah, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" My voice shook. "The ring?" He said nothing. "The woman?" Still nothing. "Or the fact that you're proposing to her in our bedroom?" The woman looked confused. "Our bedroom?" She looked at Daniel. "You told me this was your apartment." I looked at him, and for the first time, I realized something even worse. She didn't know I existed. Daniel had not told her he was married. He had created an entirely different life for her. "Daniel," I said quietly, "how long has this been going on?" He looked down. "Almost a year." A year. I felt like the floor had disappeared beneath my feet. Almost a year of lies. Almost a year of secret messages, secret meetings, and stolen moments. And all this time, I had believed our marriage was struggling because he was working too hard. I had defended him when my friends questioned his behavior. I had told everyone he was under pressure because of his career. I had been protecting a man who had been betraying me. The other woman slowly removed the ring from her finger. "You told me you were divorced." Daniel closed his eyes. "I was going to tell you." She shook her head. "No, you weren't." Then she looked at me. "I am so sorry." I didn't answer. I couldn't. I simply looked at the man I had loved for 8 years. "Did you ever love me?" Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "I do love you." I shook my head. "No, you loved having me." He looked at me. "You loved having someone who believed in you, someone who stood behind you, someone who made your life easier." I wiped the tears from my face. "But when things got better for you, you decided I wasn't enough." That's not true, he whispered. Then what is true? He had no answer. I walked downstairs. The celebration dinner was still sitting on the table. The food was getting cold. The wine was untouched. And the expensive watch was still inside its box. I picked it up and stared at it. Just a few minutes earlier, I had imagined putting it around his wrist. Now I couldn't even look at it. I took everything and put it back into the bag. Then I heard Daniel coming down the stairs. Sarah, please don't leave. I turned around. I came home today because I wanted to celebrate your success. He looked at the floor. I thought your promotion was going to be the beginning of something beautiful for us. I took a deep breath. But now I realize it was the moment I finally discovered who you really are. He stepped toward me. Give me another chance. I looked at him for a long moment. Daniel, you didn't make one mistake. You made hundreds of choices. Every secret message was a choice. Every lie was a choice. Every time you came home and kissed me after seeing her was a choice. And today, when you got on your knees and proposed to her in our bedroom, I paused. That was a choice too. He began to cry. But something inside me had gone quiet. The pain was still there. The betrayal was still there. But the woman who had spent years trying to save our marriage was finally tired. I picked up my bag. Then I walked toward the door. Where are you going? He asked. I looked back at him. Somewhere I can finally remember who I was before I became your wife. And I walked out. That night, Daniel called me more than 20 times. I didn't answer. He sent messages. He apologized. He begged. He promised he would change. But sometimes an apology arrives after the damage has already been done. 3 months later, I filed for divorce. I didn't do it because I stopped loving him. I did it because I finally understood that loving someone doesn't mean you have to keep accepting their betrayal. Daniel lost his marriage. The woman he proposed to walked away from him too. And I started rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. There were nights when I cried. There were mornings when I woke up and remembered everything. But slowly, I began to smile again. And one day, I realized something. The worst thing that happened to me wasn't finding my husband proposing to another woman. The worst thing would have been never finding out. Because sometimes the truth destroys the life you thought you had, so you can finally build the life you deserve. If this story touched your heart, tell me in the comments. What would you have done if you were Sarah? Would you have forgiven Daniel, or would you have walked away? And where are you watching from? I would love to know. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe to The Shadowed Heart, and turn on the notification bell. There are more emotional stories coming. And trust me, the next one might leave you speechless.